our agenda this evening. We can begin with some introductions and then briefly discuss the rationale for the Everybot, the link for the resources, which has already been sent out, and then our specific plans. How are we going to fabricate the parts as individuals on teams? And how are we going to run the Everybot event? Will there be a live event where we build an Everybot on camera? And will there be a Zoom call to go with that, and or a YouTube posting to follow that up? And then general discussion to support teams with the Everybot build. So that's our general kind of agenda for this evening. The rationale, I'm kind of highly paraphrasing here. From Ontario's point of view, the rationale for running the Everybot event is to build the capacity of teams. From NASA and Team 118, the Robonauts point of view, they want to create an affordable and elegant robot that is minimally competitive, and then share the designs for that so that teams can build their capacity. And so NASA and Team 118 have most graciously agreed to collaborate with us, and even were on First Canada Live last week. So we see this as a great way to launch our new teams for this year, but also support veteran teams who, as with many other organizations, have had a lot of turnover in the last little while. So building capacity in our community, I suppose, is a very succinct way to describe the intention of the Everybot. The resources, very short, here is the resources, and maybe I will just post this in the chat just in case.
Got it, William.
Good. So, and many of you may have seen it, but anyway, it's good for us to go there, and we'll maybe just take a look at this website together in a little bit. Our plans then, the Everybot plans, the questions we'll be asking include, does each team have the required resources? Do we need a team to build in front of the camera, and how are we going to do that? And we've already had a few conversations with various individuals about this, our live Zoom event. And then YouTube videos, what will be useful in terms of preparing and posting YouTube videos to support the teams. So that's the discussion we'll come around to with our plans. And then general discussion, other concerns or observations or possibilities for supporting each other in the FRC community to build the Everybot, draw on the advice and wisdom, insight, and assistance of mentors, fabricate the parts, and do any other troubleshooting and the like. Well, there we have a summary of our work on the Everybot. Let's now go to that Everybot.
Do you want to do the introductions?
Oh yes, so sorry. I got ahead of myself there. Maybe we can come back to the main screen here without sharing, and introductions first. So thank you, Paul, for keeping me on track. I skipped that. We could go around. I don't know if everyone would like to just introduce each other or introduce themselves. I'm happy to go first. I'm William Neal, the first program manager. Very happy to be working with the First Robotics team, having done about 5 or 6 years of building robots in my classroom in London, Ontario. And it's a great privilege to be with you all here this evening. Any other collaborators here ready to do introductions?
Sure, I'll do one, and then I'll pick the next person to go after me to speed it along. Sure. So I'm Paul Keenan. I'm a first senior mentor at First Canada. I was a mentor of Team 4001. And during that time, I met George Chisholm, who along with me was one of the first senior mentors in Ontario. And George is now working predominantly with his team, but a super supporter of all things first and rookie teams and veteran teams. So I'll pass it off to George.
Thank you, Paul. This is my 19th year with First. I'm a founding mentor of First Team 1334 at Oakville Trafalgar High School in Oakville. And then 7 years ago, founding mentor of Team 1360, which is a community-based team. We're a registered charity with about 48 kids on the FRC team from 15 different schools this year.
Wow.
Who would you like to pass it off to, George?
Mike Varsava.
I'm Mike Varsava. I'm lead mentor for FRC Team 7757, the Atomic Dishwashers out of Owen Sound. I am here to observe. And that's about it. I'll pass it off to Thomas.
All right. Thanks for passing it off. I'm Thomas Steele. This is my 11th year, I think, in FRC. I started as a student in 2011, and I have since graduated high school, gone into college as a mentor, graduated college as a mentor, became the head coach for Everybot, and created a few teams and mentorship clubs along the way. In my current state, I'm mostly here as a resource to help your teams achieve the competitive concept called the Everybot. And I had the pleasure of helping to introduce William Neal's team into First Robotics. So I think I'm going to pass it off to Sohaib.
He's a little quiet, so hey.
Okay, I can go next. Get it over.
Ram, sure, Ram.
I'm trying to get my video working.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
All right. Okay.
Oh, we can now. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Hey, so I'm Sohaib, 36. I was on the team in grade 10, actually, when we were founded in 2014, and I've been back to mentor since. So I think it's been like 9 years. The other day, one of the new students was actually asking me, hey, how long have you been on the team? I was like, it's been 9 years. Holy. So yeah. With like all the COVID restrictions, it's nice. We're going to build like a simpler robot this year. So the Everybot's great for that.
Makes sense. Maybe Ram, you can go now.
Oh, let me see. I don't think my video is coming on.
Oh, there it is.
So, hi, my name is Ram. The shortened version of Ram Narayan at Toru, but I go with Ram. I'm a teacher and I teach. I have a bit of computer background. My son was in VEX, and so I'm kind of a bit fairly new to this robotics. So I have a little bit of background, but fairly new in another way. My students were the ones who were more keen than me. They had been waiting for a long time to. They know a lot about robotics. They were waiting for a long time. It seems that to get themselves involved in robotics. So they as soon as I sensed the need or the desire and the enthusiasm, and I jumped in. So that's kind of my background.
Thanks, Ram. Maybe Yana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yana Bauer, Manitoulin Secondary School, Manitoulin Medal 6865. I'm really excited that we're finally going to be able to meet again. It's been a long time, and our kids, other than on Google Meets, we've been trying to keep some enthusiasm going. So we're looking at trying to just get a robot built with a shortened time frame, with no capacity in terms of students who built robots, other than I think I have 4 who we managed to go to one event in 2020. So we have some enthusiasm that's filtering down to our junior members, because we had a few kids who actually competed a few years ago. And George, your team in our rookie year made us a video, which I'm very grateful for. That's been really helpful for promotion and getting word out about First. So miigwech to 1360 for that. And we're looking at the Everybot as a starting point. And then we're hoping, if we have time, to add student ideas to make it better and make it unique and make it our own.
That's great. Stephen, how about you?
Okay. Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, because I left my mic at school, so I guess it's working now. Good. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen, and I'm a new teacher to my current school, Northern Secondary School. And this year we have our team 84 is a new team, and everything is new to me and my student. And we just start our robotic cup this year, and hopefully we can get something done and see you guys in the event.
That's fantastic. And last but not least, Peter.
Yeah, hi, Peter Gabauer at Six Nations Polytechnic in Brantford. It's good to see another Indigenous school here as well. That's great. Yeah, we have the capacity to do a build with regards to tools. What we're lacking is expertise. So the Everybot is a nice project. This year, we're being restricted from attending outside the school events. So our intention is to build the Everybot in-house within the context of a robotics club, rather than formal participation in FRC this year, and also in the context of 2 robotics courses. On February the 4th, our third quad starts, and I'll be teaching a grade 9 robotics course. So I'll be using mostly the FTC robotics kits. But as the course progresses, my intention is to get them up to speed to some extent on FRC, and the Everybot is a wonderful tool. In 4th quad, I'm teaching a grade 11 robotics course with a small group, and the intention there is to continue the Everybot and to maybe extend the initial design, considering it as a prototype, and see if we can make it better. Though we won't be participating in competitions this year, our hope is that we can do a three-peat at STEMLY. I'm also quite interested in following up with first on your earlier questionnaire with regards to the possibility of additional off-season events sponsored by FRC. Our school has adjacent to it and part of our organization, a community center, a large full-size gymnasium, other resources. It might be useful as a potential home for competition. So that's something that is being looked at quite favorably inside our organization. So whether it's an FRC event or maybe a cluster of FTC teams getting together and doing an FTC competition there, we're open to either at this point. I think before moving that forward, I think we want to get an opinion from first whether the facility is sufficient to support competition, and what assistance we can get on pulling it off if we can. It'd be nice to have a Six Nations Cup in addition to the STEMLY.
That would be nice. Yeah.
That would be amazing. And I just put down there to follow up with you, George, or sorry, Peter, to ask a little more about that suggestion. That sounds really great. Well, it's really great to meet everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Paul will keep me on track if I go astray again. We have as the next sort of discussion, the sort of Everybot kind of plans. I think the rationale and resources are kind of short, but the plans here, we can sort of develop that a little bit more. And the 3 main parts I put down here in my list include parts fabrication, some kind of live event, and YouTube. And for the parts fabrication, we can have a little discussion. Maybe I'll share my screen again with this resources file, and we'll just take a look at the Everybot together. And let's just share the screen. In our Everybot resources, we have the reveal video, we have this CAD, and the bill of materials. It would be good for the teams to very carefully look through the bill of materials and identify those things which you already have and what you don't have. And then reach out if, for example, you're having trouble finding this or that of the items. Vex Pro is a supplier here in Ontario that can usually get you within about 2 business days, many of their parts. I'm not sure about the ThriftyBot or Rev Robotics. McMaster Car is fast, but has a shipping cost attached to it in American dollars, which is not always great. And there may be a local supplier of fasteners. I know we repeatedly used a local supplier of fasteners that far undercut everyone else, like the Home Depot. So assessing your Everybot list against this list, your Everybot list against your available suppliers, and trying to procure these materials sooner rather than later, as we will be looking at doing the live build, if we have one, and maybe February 4th or 5th in about 10 or 11 days from now. Okay, so that's one of the first orders of business, just to go through this with your team and identify what you already have and what you need and what you can get easily and what you may need some support getting. We have a lot of standard parts here, but then there are some other parts that need to be manufactured. And the manufactured pieces include maple wood, apparently, maple plywood, a 4x8 sheet. Oh, wow. I'm wondering, Paul, did you do some editing on this?
No. So
okay,
they've been American
editing price, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think some of the stuff, maybe Thomas and George, who've been involved for quite a long time, and I know George has got super wood skills, might have some tips on that.
Maple plywood usually is what they call a veneer core plywood, which means it's made of layers of wood rather than particle core, which has no strength to it. Yeah, spruce is pretty cheap. You may not be able to find maple. The best you could get the top of the line would be Baltic birch or Russian ply, which is very, very thin layers. Home Depot sometimes has a paint grade maple plywood, which would do if you can get it, but a lot of this stuff is out of stock at Home Depot right now and not cheap.
No, that 62 looks very optimistic in Canada here.
Yeah, so I picked up a sheet actually just today, a 4x8 of maple, about 3/4 inch thick. I think it was like $88 plus tax.
Oh, okay, that's not too far from the exchange rate.
Yep,
Yeah,
the one thing that was like
what I found as well. I was looking them up to purchase some bumpers this week. Actually, 88's exactly the same number I got.
Yeah, the only thing that was really expensive was the polycarb. I think they have it at like $17. It goes for $55 now.
There's a much cheaper place to buy polycarbonate, and that's P&A Plastics in Hamilton.
Awesome, thanks for sharing that. I'll note that down.
P&A, they're on Main Street in downtown Hamilton. They are absolutely wonderful to deal with. In fact, I'm going in there tomorrow to get some UHMW bar. William, would it make sense to just go down the list of the bill of materials and maybe suggest some places where some of the stuff can be got more easily, because that bill of materials is American?
Yes, that would be great, because some of these places definitely would not serve us well here.
The first items there, yeah. Derek Murphy at Studica does still have, as of last week, did have some Neo motors. He's no longer authorized to sell them from Rev Robotics, but he did have some in stock, and he's near the airport.
There is a Rev Robotics new location in Thornhill, though.
They're actually shipping from Concord, not far from Derek. It's actually, Derek figures it's a fulfillment center actually run by Google.
Yeah, their product selection is somewhat limited, so I guess it's going to be demand driven. So if we demand and there's a higher demand on certain parts, then they'll add it to their list.
Yeah, where it says Andy Mark for any of those supplies, you're going to pay shipping from the US. I would recommend that you contact Derek at Studica.com, because they carry all the Andy Mark stuff. In fact, quite often they have stuff that Andy Mark doesn't have. That's an Andy Mark item.
Yeah, now it says interchangeable with Vexpro sprockets. Why not go with Vexpro? Because Vexpro does have a Canadian supplier.
Yep. Yep. And Studica is also the supplier for from Andy Mark products in Canada. Okay, keep going down the list there. 35 roller chain. You can get that a variety of places. We mentioned McMaster Car. McMaster car shipping is actually very, very reasonable. So on a $200 order, you might pay $20 US shipping. You're going to pay HST because they are what's classified as a non-resident or non-resident alien importer or something like that. So they charge HST and remit that to Revenue Canada. Biggest thing about McMaster car is if I order it by 4 p.m., usually have it the next day from Cleveland. The only thing you might want to avoid from them, well, I won't say avoid, but number 25 chain, which is nominal 1/4 inch pitch. There are 2 different versions of it and they are not interchangeable. So I would stick to Vex Pro or Andy Mark, or sorry, Studica if I were getting number 25 chain. Keep going. I've never had any dealings with Thrifty. Things like inside corner brackets, yeah, you can probably get that. Well, Rev Robotics, or you could probably get something at Home Depot if you really wanted, that would do what you wanted.
I've had a great few interactions with Everybot. I think that although the shipping lead time is sometimes a bit of a killer with that one, since they ship from the central United States, I think that the hubs, I think they still work out to be cheaper if you order through them as opposed to a Canadian retailer. The Thrifty Motor Mega Plate just happens to hook up to a variety of different motors, which is why they, I think, recommended that one over the standard plates at Vex Pro. And the clamping bearing block kit, if you were to purchase that on Vex, is about twice the price.
Okay.
So,
question here on some of these parts. What about 3D printing them? We have a capability with our new 3D printer. We've not got it operational yet. It's imminent. But we can use carbon fiber reinforced material.
Oh, like a Mark Forge sort of deal?
Well, no, it's an Ender 6, but it's upgraded to handle the higher temperatures of the material. Again,
with printing carbon fiber, though, you'll need a sapphire nozzle, or it will erode very, very quickly, I understand. Oil embedded sleeve bearings. Yeah, McMaster car is probably your best bet from them. Oil embedded sleeve bearings, or bushings as they're sometimes known, are great things, but they are for low speed only. So don't use them on a high speed shaft. Great for a pivot point though.
I think that's what they were talking about for them when they talked about it.
Yeah, and 3/8 3/8 hex head bolts, the next item, you can get those at Home Depot. Hex head bolts, they don't have a whole lot in the way of socket head cap screws. Same thing with Nylocks, you can get those at Home Depot, and washers, all that kind of stuff.
Don't forget about a company called Fastenal.
Yeah.
I've placed an order with them and just put a long shopping list together, and they're able to fulfill pretty much everything on the list. If not right away, then within 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I've had mixed experience with Fastenal. They're more expensive than Home Depot, and they say they have it in stock, but they have to get it in from their facility somewhere else, and it can take quite a while. Just be aware. Where do we go? We're 2x4.
Well,
yeah,
we skipped by the springs though, I think.
Oh, those are springs. Whoops, I thought they were bolts.
So those are not easily available at Home Depot, but I think they are available at Lowe's, and they have a brand name of Hillman, so you should be able to get them there. I don't know if anybody else has a better source.
Okay. You're not going to, for the 2x4 by 2 foot, you're not going to be able to buy a piece 2 feet long. You're going to have to buy an 8-footer or a 92 5/8 inch piece. They're running about $7 plus right now. They're double what they normally are. And 1/8 inch steel cable, you can get that as well. You can see the little cable clamps that they recommend there. Double them up. 5 30-second rivets.
Oh, sorry, this is too much for me to copy. Are we gonna get a video after?
Yes.
Oh, thanks, because I've been writing like crazy and I can't keep up.
I would recommend that you get your rivets. Yeah, you can get them from McMaster Car, and you'll have them quickly. Fastenal doesn't have a bad price on them. and you can buy them by the box of 1,000. I would upgrade that 5/32 to 3/16. So you don't have to worry about stocking different sizes, because if you're using the Vex Pro chassis in future years, that they use 3/16. There was some discussion a little while ago I had with Paul about riveters. If you can afford it, one of our favorite, most used tools is the Milwaukee cordless 12-volt cordless riveter. You can get it at Home Depot, and much more useful than a pneumatic one because you don't need a compressor with it. We now have 2 of them, and they just happen to fit in the deep DeWalt part sorter, which is really handy. 1/2-inch hex stock. Yeah, you can get that from Vex Pro. That's for 3 foot long. You can get it in 6 foot pieces from Studica, and I think the price is cheaper. 1/2-inch hex bearings. What do they have for the price there? It says free. Must be
a voucher.
Yeah.
You think?
Okay. Again, be really careful of the vouchers you get with the kit of parts, because a lot of them you pay shipping to Canada, which completely negates any benefit you're going to get from that voucher. There are very, very few vouchers that we actually use because most of them charge shipping to Canada, and it's just not worth it.
George, if I might step in, this right here is a Swift 1/2-inch hex bearing. I got it in 2021 as part of this voucher deal.
Yeah.
And you get 10 bearings for like $28. All you're paying is the shipping. And
okay.
I think that's still cheaper than anywhere else if you weren't to include shipping.
Yeah, depends on that. Some places tack in and all the shipping is a lot more than it really should be. It's an amplified shipping cost.
Personally, the only thing that I get from Swift Robotics is the hex bearings, and with the voucher, it's completely worth it. I wouldn't purchase them otherwise from Swift. There are way cheaper places to get it, but yeah, you guys are right. There's one that comes in the kit, 10 free bearings.
Yeah.
Say that again. Those bearings are one. Can you repeat it? Oh, sorry about that.
There's a voucher for 10 free bearings from Swift Robotics inside your rookie kit of parts. I believe they're also inside the veteran kit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Now you'll need something to drill for those 1/2-inch hex bearings, because they're in 1 1/8 inches outside diameter. We can talk about that later under tools, I suppose. The red line motors, 775.
Sorry, question. What's the turnaround time for shipping from Swift?
I think mine was like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I wasn't really in a rush for them, so I wasn't paying much attention to it. But they are from the central United States, so I'd account for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One question, Neil. Does the chat gets recorded too?
We'll copy the chat. We'll download the chat.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
So you can also get those hex bearings from Studica. If you're looking for some place that's closer, Studica, Vex Pro, they both carry them. The 775A red lines, that's an Andy Mark product. You can get those from Studica, which is Canadian. And the Versa Planetaries are going to have to get from Vex Pro in Pickering.
Question here on this motor and gearbox combination. Is there an alternative with the Baby Neos, or is Baby Neo underpowered?
Yes. Sorry, I just happen to have it right off screen. So this is a 12-to-1 BaneBots. You can purchase them off Andy Mark or BaneBots directly. I'd recommend from Studica, since they're the Canadian supplier of Andy Mark. And the equivalent motor is the 775 Pro from X Pro. I personally run 775 Pros. I've just had bad experience with the red lines, and since they're mostly shipped from the United States, these end up being cheaper by $1 or $2. Yeah, there's a couple of equivalents.
Be very, very careful if you're pushing the pinion onto those motors, because it's very, very difficult to get it off, and you want to get them on straight. If you're friends with a team that has the Studica jig to hold them, to keep them straight, and you have access to an arbor press, then I highly recommend doing that rather than trying to use a vise or a hammer, because the motor's damaged pretty easily. Rest of the stuff, yeah. The 18 tooth timing pulleys, you can get those. Some you can get from McMaster Car, which will be probably cheaper. And we had great success the last couple of years of 3D printing them.
Yeah, that one's better for 3D printing as well. Hopefully it's not in a high torque application. It depends on the amount of torque, because it'll shred the plastic if there's too much torque.
Yeah, there are various places you can get belts. Is it Toronto Gear? It might be Toronto Gear might be a better place to get the timing pulleys, because they'll make them any size you want. Those gusset plates, you can, if you have access to a CNC router, you can cut those out of aluminum if you really wish, or easily enough. Polycarbonate sheet, I said, because as I said previously, Home Depot's a fortune. P&A Plastics in Hamilton. There are probably other places that's just convenient for me. I'm in Oakville. I'd rather drive into downtown Hamilton than make my way into Toronto. Schedule 40 pipe, the PVC pipe. Yeah, you can get that at Home Depot. That's the white stuff, or gray, whereas the black stuff is ABS. If you can't get PVC in those sizes, try a plumbing supply place or go with ABS. Quarter 20 threaded rod, no problem. Foam pipe insulation, yeah, it's $4 and change. I just bought some today. 1032 by quarter inch bolts. Yeah, McMaster Car is a good spot. Nylocks 1032. You may find those at Home Depot, although they don't usually deal with much in the way of machine sizes. Fastenal will have those as well. A lot of teams don't like button head cap screws because the equivalent, let's say 832 socket head, that's the one with the rectangular head, like two items above. And the button head version of it takes a smaller set Allen key, and some people feel they twist off too easily. And they use the blue patch ones there. You can see it on there. That's a locking version, so it doesn't vibrate loose. Never use just plain machine nuts on a robot. There's about a 95% chance that they're going to vibrate loose at some inopportune time, and you're going to be leaving robot droppings all over the field. So always Nylocks, and you can get them in low profile. 3/8 by 5 OD spacer. If you have access to a lathe, you can make those easily enough, or you can 3D print them, most likely. Depends on the load on them. Tnuts, yeah. U-bolts, Home Depot for both of those.
So just about that for a second, George.
Yeah.
So the reason why the U-bolts are there is because the next one down is this long bar that in the video, if you're watching it, they've cut up to add weight, right? Yeah. So if you're going to do something different, as people were talking about when the video was on First Canada Live last week, yeah, you may not need those. So you sort of keep that in mind.
Correct. And provided it's secure, and that's a big provided, you can use pretty much anything you want for weight, for ballast, as long as it's not liquid. They don't want anything punctured and liquid all over the field. So you could use a section from a piece of a barbell, a weight from a barbell if you want, and just zip tie the hell out of it.
Yeah.
The proper name for the one underneath there is a flathead bolt, not a countersunk bolt. You'll probably have to get those at a specialty shop like Fastenal or McMaster Car. The tie plate, now you'll be able to find that at Home Depot. 1 by 1 by 96 inches of 1/20th wall thickness tubing. What the hell is 1/20th wall thickness tubing?
I don't think you can find that. Like
that's 50 thou.
I was looking today.
You can.
I picked some up from Home Depot a couple days ago. They got it.
Okay.
Did you?
Okay.
Yeah, not all locations do, but some of them do carry it.
Yeah, you can do. You can probably might be able to get it in 16th wall, which is 62.5 thou, or 95 thou wall at a place such as Metal Supermarket, which will be a lot cheaper.
Yes.
And stronger. The big disadvantage of the aluminum you buy at Home Depot is they ship it in from overseas, and it's an unknown alloy, and it may be difficult to machine. It gets gummy and it doesn't drill very well, and it's not terribly strong sometimes. Plus it's anodized, so you can't weld it unless you hack the anodizing off it, if you choose to weld sometime in the future.
So can we talk about the metal supermarket for a minute there, George? Is that what you use? Because I think I visited one with you.
I buy, if I can't get it elsewhere, I get it at metal supermarkets. There's a store in Oakville, if you get close enough, called Resource Metals. Resource Metals, and they are quite a bit cheaper, and they'll work with you to get it in easily. The guy to talk to is Glenn. He knows First Robotics because I've been dealing with him for some years now. In fact, I'm trying to get 1x2 by 95 thou wall rectangular tube, not available anywhere in Canada. I'm going to have some made probably for next year, but it's £1,000 minimum order.
So in the bill of materials there, that one that we're looking at, line 60, where it's saying it was included in the rookie kit of parts. That's true, but I think there were, correct me if I'm wrong, the rookies, if you've opened that box up, there were 2 pieces in there, or there were 4 pieces in there? Who's opened there?
There were 2 pieces, but I never took it out.
Right. So they're 4 feet long, I think. But if you look at the cut list, they say you need 2 pieces that are 4 feet long and 2 pieces that are 72 inches long.
And you're not going to be able to find it in Canada. So you're going to have to go with thicker.
You might.
8 inches is the standard.
Yeah, so I went for 16th wall at metal supermarkets for that 72-inch and have it. So we just got it in 1/8.
Yeah. And I
maybe you and Thomas can explain why they keep wanting to us to use lighter stuff there, George. What's the
well, it's a lighter weight, so it's once you get down the road, everybody likes to, you'll need to cut weight on the robot. Everybody ends up trying to cut weight, and usually the day before competition or day of a competition. So that's why people like this 1/16 wall. Personally, I am leery about using 1/16 wall because especially if it's a load, because it's so flexible and it will bend really easily and it will kink really easily. 95 thou I much prefer if I can get it. If you're buying though, be careful of what aluminum alloy you get. You can get the 1x2 and 95 thou, but it's a 6063 alloy rather than a 6061 alloy. 6063 has about 70% of the strength of 6061, and it also can be gummy if you're trying to machine it. So if you're trying to drill it and you're having problems, aluminum likes to cling to cutters. If you're drilling holes, it likes to cling, and it makes you get bits of aluminum welded to the end of your drill, and then you have real problems with it. You can avoid that by using a cutting agent. In an emergency, you could use kerosene with aluminum. You're much better to get yourself a small bottle of a product called Cool Tool. It's a cutting oil or cutting agent, and a little drop will do you. So that's Cool Tool with a C. You can get that from McMaster Car in a little wee squeeze bottle. You can probably get it in other places here.
Busy Bee sells that kind of stuff.
I
don't know if that's a chain that goes all through Ontario. There's several in this area.
With TSC?
Busy Bee.
Oh, Busy Bee. Yes, Busy Bee. Princess Auto, probably not. Yeah, but Busy Bee.
Can we ask at this point of the people that are on the call, how many people think they're going to have trouble being able to drill and cut the amount of aluminum they've got? Because there's very specific holes that you got to drill for some of this.
Yeah, so like we've got our stuff cut down to like we've got all of our stuff cut to the cut sheets. It's about miter, like the miter angles, because we're doing this all with the hacksaw. Can't do that well, and then the hole patterns as well. That's probably the biggest concern.
On our end, our bigger issue is getting everything. So for us to, we have to ship it. It's going to take us weeks to go and get it. We may or may not have any success. We're very rural, so we'd have to go like 200 kilometers to the nearest Home Depot, and they may not have everything that we need. So we're that's our biggest obstacle right now, and that's before we can actually put our hands on trying to drill. So that's our issue. So with that in mind, one of the questions that William mentioned was around whether a live build or recorded with the recording would serve us better, because then when we do get stuff in our hands, we can get to work with a video.
Oh yeah, so all right, you can
go ahead, Ram.
Okay. Yeah, same here. I don't have facilities, but I do know by chance I do know people, George and so forth, that I will contact to help me get things done. And I like to echo what the previous person said. Indeed, in that case, it sounds like a video would be better, because then I'll go and try to meet this person. I'm gonna go yonder, go to have a sponsor, Sable Metals or something, and then go all over these different places and get pieces done here, piece done there.
Right.
There's no reason why you can't drill the holes for these bearings, these 1/2-inch hex bearings in aluminum, using a cordless drill. Excuse me. Or if you have access to it, a small drill press. And you may want to invest in a product called a step drill. And it's a conical sort of drill with a whole range of sizes to it. You might have to look around a little bit to get one that will do the 1 1/8 hole you'll need for those bearings.
That's a drill bit, is it, George?
Yes.
It's not a drill.
It has a bunch of stages that go to wider gauges up to the 1 1/4 or 1 1/8 inch. Right?
They call them a step drill.
Yeah, I know from experience. I used to work at Canadian Tire, and they almost always have the 1 1/8 in stock. Just about any location they've got. It's one of their more popular things now is the step drill bits. Absolutely agree with George. If you can stretch it, get yourself a small 10-inch drill press and a step drill bit. And if you're careful with it and use the cutting fluid, it'll last you a season or two before you need a second one.
And you can always sharpen them. I've sharpened it many times. Or if you have access, if you're any good with a grinder, they can sharpen it.
That too.
Yeah. Okay, what's next on
I
the list?
I found the step drill bits, if that's what the question is in chat for. You can get them on sale for $18 to $20. The normal retail cost is between $36 and $50.
Yeah, but there's an old saying: you get what you pay for. The $18 or $19 version isn't going to last as long as an Irwin brand name. And there's another old saying: never buy anything full price at Canadian Tire.
Yeah,
that's good.
I agree with that.
These are the last items on the list.
Okay.
Aside from
Noodles. Pool supply place. You know, I've got one around the corner here, Leisureland World or something like that. They have boxes of them. And the rule is you can use any shape you want, but you can't mix and match. So if you're using the star-shaped ones, then you have to use all of them, the star-shaped ones. Bumper fabric. If you're in this for the long haul, I would recommend buying yourself enough bumper fabric to do few years. And the company to get it from is J. Ennis Fabrics in Concord area, not far from Studica. That's J.A.E.N.N.I.S. And it's called Cordura.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking for the woman's business card here. I think I have it somewhere.
It doesn't have to be that specific fabric. You can, as long as it's not going to tear and rip. But I mean,
Right.
if you can get the one that someone like George has used and it's going to work,
Yep.
You want to get that one for sure.
And if you're stuck and you're near Oakville, I've got lots of it.
And I've had good experience with thicker canvases and stuff as well.
Yeah.
They don't tend to rip when you get punctured by somebody else's robot. Occasionally that happens. So making sure that it is a strong enough material. Don't just make it out of some sort of dollar fabric that you find around. These things have the capacity to last you all season, which could be up to 4 competitions.
Yep. People have a lot of trouble teams frequently have troubles with bumpers and they put it off to the last minute. Don't put it off to the last minute. And if you just read the rules and make sure you're clear on what they have to do.
Sorry, question on bumpers. So would it make sense to actually do double up on the fabric? And secondly, I bought some pool noodles over the summer because, and then I got the two pool noodles and the kidder parts, but I didn't know, what did you say, George, that there's some kind of regulation for the pool noodles?
There are lots of rules on them. Read the bumper rules very carefully in the manual.
Yeah, but you can get pool noodles at Canadian Tire. They often still have them in the back. They wouldn't have them out on the floor. But I know even in Newmarket, where I live, I've had to go and get them, and they have them. They say they're 2.5 or 2.25 inch nominal size, but they're the smallest of the pool noodles, so they're never super accurate.
Some people make their bumpers so they just leave the red on and put the blue on top. Some people have it Velcro fastened. There are all kinds of different versions of it. I usually make 2 sets of bumpers, or the kids make 2 sets of bumpers.
That's much easier.
You want to make them so they're easy to get on and off. Not so easy that they fall off by themselves, though.
There are, there's one more product on there, the white seal material for it's called White Flex Seal, and I have a feeling that works well on bumpers. We found everything that doesn't work on bumpers, but I'm wondering if anyone else has the experience with.
What do you mean, to paint them?
To paint them, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
I've never heard of that.
Iron-on material.
Pardon?
I use iron-on material.
Iron-on material. Okay.
Yeah, you can get iron-on basically sheets of 8.5 by 11, and you cut your own numbers. Use a couple of stencils for your team number, as long as they make. I think it's a 3/4 inch thickness for the block lettering that you need. As long as you hit that, you can use whatever font you want. So you can freehand your own team font. As long as it meets that regulation, it can add that extra bit of flair.
Yeah, so I can't echo enough to what George said about building the bumpers as soon as you make your chassis.
It makes a huge difference.
If you're building the Everybot, you have to make 2 cuts on the chassis.
Yes.
So to make it a little bit narrower. So the 2 end parts, the front and the back, they have to be cut. In the conversation we've had with, it doesn't say it anywhere, but I talked to Ryan this morning, and those 2 panels are cut to 26 inches.
And actually, you can see that on the CAD. If you look on the CAD on the Everybot, you can measure pieces, and it's good for you to know how to do that, just in case.
So as soon as those are cut and you start putting your robot together, take George's advice, build the bumpers then, because teams want to leave them until the end. Don't do that. Aside from the fact that if you're driving your robot around, it's dangerous without them.
Yeah. Some people use those spiked T-nuts and bolts to hold them on. The problem with doing that is if that T-nut comes off inside your bumper, you're going to have to rip the cloth off to get at it to put it back together and use it. So you want to make sure your bumpers are robust.
Sorry, before we move off from chassis, can we speak a little bit more about the chassis? Now I'll start with a question I have. So does it make sense that I always thought that, we can build a chassis and then, or we build a chassis and get that going, and while we could do the rest. So in this case, for this Everybot, does that still apply where you can build a chassis first, or all has to kind of be together? And the part about, that's the other question I have to research to understand. What are you saying that the kit bot, the chassis that comes in the kit bot, do we build it as it is, or you say something it has to be cut?
If you built it as it is, you're breaking the rules already, because the chassis can only have a perimeter of 120 inches.
And so they're specific on the Everybot with 660 millimeters on the CAD file. I had mine set to millimeters, but you can measure it. I just did that. And if you look back on the video, I just isolated the the frame element, and I measured it using the CAD program in the Everybot files. And it's important to do that with those key pieces to make sure you're going to get the right dimensions. So you can measure every part there within reason. We were having trouble measuring the maple cutout pieces because they're irregular shape, but we got a reasonable estimate on their shape and
Picture.
today.
So Ram, if you don't cut the chassis, if you don't cut the ends, the other dimensions aren't going to be what you thought you were going to be, and your robot is going to be illegal. So like, even if you didn't cut it to like the long side is about 32 inches, I think, if I recall, from what I looked at this morning. And the wide side, the narrower side originally is about 31, I believe. That has to now be 26 to match up with all the other drawings. So
yeah,
one end would be cut.
32. Sorry to cut in, Paul. I just wanted to hit on what Ram asked about with the can you get the kitbot working and then build the rest of it? In short, yes, you can. But I'd recommend handing off the chassis with the assembled electrical to your programmers to then do an autonomous mode of some kind while you work on the top half, and then attach the top half onto the bottom frame. So it was a great question. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Paul.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, thank you. Who's that? Thank you. That's what I meant. It's Thomas, right? That's exactly what I meant. Thank you, Thomas. So just to confirm that I understand, that makes a world of difference for me.
Yeah.
So in other words, we can get the chassis working. Maybe we can go to competition with the chassis alone. No, that's kidding.
Well, what I used to do at kickoff is there was a quick build at the Western kickoff. So what we would do is every team would open up their kit bot chassis, assemble it without cutting anything. So it was a 32 by 32 base. Get the electronics on there, make sure everything was assembled properly and they knew how it was supposed to go together. And then every team individually would take off the 8 bolts or whatever on each end, cut the width or cut the length to the size they wanted for their custom chassis. And then they already know how everything else fits back together. They just reassemble that, which they already assembled on the first day. And it gives the kids this huge boost of energy because look, we got a robot running. It's running around on the tiles, 5 hours after kickoff. Isn't that wonderful? So I definitely recommend trying to structure it in a way where they get that instant feedback of, look at what I managed to accomplish. And then they're able to modify it in future meetings to fit with whatever the design is. In this case, the Everybot.
Yep. All right, thanks. That makes a big difference because with all the trouble I'm having, just my procurement. Oh, that's a story for some other time. So that would make a big difference for us if we can get started on that, because my God, the rest of it, that's another story. So just to confirm, that was one thing I want to take you on this meeting, is that we can go ahead and build a chassis at least, and get started on that, because.
And the fun thing about first is sometimes you'll see a robot that's just the chassis enter into the competition, because that's all the students were able to get accomplished. If you only get the chassis done, as long as you have an autonomous mode, you're able to get points in this game. And you don't actually need the top half of it in order to score a point or two. Now, in order to compete fairly competitively, you're going to want the top chassis built by the Everybot. But that kitbot gets you the absolute basics in order to play defense, in order to shove the balls around, and in order to get the the initiation line points at the beginning of the match.
Yeah,
you're much better when you're making the robot chassis to be a little bit undersized than a little bit oversized. Because if you're oversized, you're not going to be able to compete.
Oh, that helps a lot. That was the big one I came to the meeting to get going with, because that is like the only thing that can save us. My situation right now.
So I just wanted to interject a little. I will have to leave in a few minutes, and I wanted to just reach out to teams if there are any issues with your build, including the parts, the funding, the organization, the expertise, the fabrication, or anything that we discussed. Please reach out to Paul or I. And we have 2 mentors on the call this evening, George and Thomas, who have a wealth of experience and insight. And we also have the other teams. So we can work together as a team to make sure that the Everybot is ready. And please feel free to reach out to us earlier rather than later, so we can identify issues and get your team going with the Everybot. Hopefully our session this evening has been able to get us to the first big issue, was getting all the parts sourced and ready to go. Then we'll solve other issues like getting them fabricated or getting specialized or unusual bits together. And then we'll look at the moment from the consultation, it looks like we may try to do some kind of Everybot build on the Friday, the February 4th and Saturday, February 5th. We may do it live, but then compile the video into more usable chunks and more manageable chunks and upload them to YouTube. And so some more details have to be worked out for that, but we may be able to manage to build one. But if one of the teams would like to volunteer their robot, maybe that could be thrown in the mix. I haven't fully consulted with Paul and John Hobbins and the team at Studica and some of our other mentors here about the best approach. But if anyone on the call has a suggestion about that, please feel free, because we want to optimize our use of everyone's time and try to find a way to get a nice Zoom call together to do a live build followed by some YouTube videos.
William, I'll think about that for sure.
Good.
I might be. I'll contact you and figure out how it works. Yeah, that
feel free to reach out, and we'll find different ways to support you. I've already been talking to some of the other members on this call, and I think we can find ways to support your team and other teams with some really interesting possibilities.
If you need me to cut anything for you and you're close, then I'm happy to cut it for you. I don't know a team that wouldn't help you cut material.
Excellent.
We have a wood cutting bandsaw that we bought that we use for cutting aluminum. Works like a charm. I change the blade a couple of times a year. It's a little bit loud, but it works well. You don't need to go out and spend thousands on a metal cutting bandsaw.
Oh yeah, and George, I'll contact you about some of those sourcing, some of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That you're close. I'm going to write you an email in a minute or so. Then that would help too.
Our build facility is about just off the QEW, North Service Road and 4th Line in Oakville, so halfway between Toronto and Hamilton. If you want to come down, and I'm happy to cut stuff for you.
So just a couple of tips about that. One is that the reason why George can do what he's offering, and the reason why other people perhaps can as well, is because they're community groups and they've set all their COVID precautions and so forth. Schools are not, any school would help you if they could, but some of them are not going to be able to access that kind of thing. So you might want to keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you're at a school that's in a board and there were teams in your board and maybe they're not competing this year, I might recommend trying to contact some of them, seeing if they could loan you some stuff. Maybe they have some extra pool noodles lying around. Maybe they have some extra wood lying around. Maybe they would loan you for competition some batteries. So if you're a new team, Thomas, you can probably speak to batteries. Yeah, the 2 that you get are great, but I don't think they're going to be enough, right? So
I recommend 6 minimum for a standard district event. This year we've got a lot less competition time, and you've got a little more time in between competitions. Maybe you could do with 4, but yeah, as somebody who has been a rookie many times before with only 2 batteries, I would recommend investing heavily into some good battery chargers, as well as some replacement batteries, so that while the ones you've received are charging, you've got some good ones ready to go. Yes, yeah. And in the chat, another great suggestion, battery beak. How to test how strong your batteries are.
So I may have to drop off, ladies and gentlemen, for my next meeting, but I'm really appreciative of meeting everyone. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you to our mentors and everyone's participating in the Everybot, and looking forward to seeing everyone soon.
Thank you, William.
So thank you.
Stay safe, buddy.
Sorry, if George is